Yo, welcome everybody to another MOCA Weekly Town Hall. My name's Max. To my right is Daim. On the other side of this funky little screen, trapped within a dodecahedron, I think, is Untitled XYZ. And we should have Renee showing up soon. But welcome, everyone. We're happy to have you here. And what's up, Daim? What's up, Untitled? How are you both doing?
Hello. I'm doing very well, thank you. Happy to be here.
Good. Doing well. Nice call on that geometry there, Max. Very well done.
Dodecahedron?
Yeah.
Come on. Would you believe that I never even took a high school geometry class?
Actually, technically,
I would.
I'm pretty sure it's an Escher solid, but
You'll allow it.
I'll allow it.
Hello, Renee.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Renee,
if you had to guess what shape was in Untitled's picture there, what would you say it was?
Triangle.
You're not wrong.
It's an Escher solid. As I was just so dutifully informed. Well, it's Thursday. We've had another wonderful week. I'd love to start talking about VVV because I'd love to understand it more. And I think that this is the only possible circumstance in which I'm going to come to understand Venice AI and that ecosystem and what's happening there. If any of you, maybe Renee, would like to give us a primer, just because I know that it's so kind of entangled in what you're building on the back end of the museum, or at least it's potentially entangled.
Yeah, it's definitely like our secondary compute provider, additionally to compute AI. And like yesterday, they launched a token called DM, which is an acronym or I don't know, a synonym or something.
No. I think DM just means a day in Latin.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was something that implies something per day, but yeah, whatever. Like DM, let's say it's Latin for day, and it reflects the amount of computation you get per day, while 1 DM is $1 per day. So if you have like 100 DM, that means you can pull $100 per day from Venice's API worth of computation, and different models have different prices, and you basically pay or are able to use the DM to pay for the equivalent of, let's say 100 DM is the equivalent of $100 that you would pay using your credit card in dollars for like pulling stuff from the API. And yesterday, when they launched this new token, there's like a very complicated curve mechanic, how those tokens are issued, and for how many Venice token, which is VVV, get you a certain amount of DM. And that was something that our whole team basically was like talking about last night, or like in the US, it was like afternoon or early evening when they launched that thing. And we were like trying to mint our DM for the staked VVV tokens that we have.
Trying is very accurate.
Yeah.
So
I think we did a good job. Like when we look at it right now, compared to what we got yesterday, when it comes to the daily allowance, it's almost cut in half. Or
what's like a normal amount of compute that you would need? I mean, like, do you measure compute in, like, if you were going to run a model to do, like, let's say Art Decos, right? When we were generating those, like, Daim, how much compute is necessary for like a day of generation? Like, is that $100 worth a day? Is that like $8 worth a day? Like, what is the cost component there?
Well, oh god, I had a better handle on this with the pre-DM system they had. Let me just
I guess I
shoot up here something.
yeah,
I mean, you can definitely use up quite a bit in a single day. The image generation is sort of at a fixed price, I believe, even now. And I think I think a DM might be 100 images, if I'm not mistaken. 100 image generations.
okay.
So you know, keeping in mind that the way Venice AI works, it's not really meant for the sort of super complicated, customized workflows that we used for Art Decos. But if we ignore that part, like even then, you'll get a sense that, for like what was it? Didn't we have like 300,000 characters or like more generated that we curated down from?
Yeah, around that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, around that. So like at 100 images per DM, for 300,000, I guess that's 3,000 DMs. So if you, well, I mean, time is also a factor, obviously. I don't think you could do 300,000 images necessarily in a single day with
Let me open
with Venice AI.
a bit, because I think that all of you will have an opinion on this, but like, Daim, you've done a lot of generation. Untitled, with your unmuseums, you did a lot of trellis generation. Renee, I know that you've done all sorts of things under the sun with generation. Like, the way that compute is currently handled in the industry, especially with like this kind of decentralized compute movement with the like compute and the Venice, like, is it conducive to artists experimenting, or is it kind of like punitive?
Oh, yes. I would say for that it's very good, especially like any sort of system like what Venice and Compute AI has, where staking a certain amount gets you basically a recurring allotment of whether it's daily or monthly compute, because it effectively means that with some initial investment you're essentially securing yourself sort of perpetual access.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, how perpetual it ends up being depends on the success and the life cycle of the company itself. But the fact that these days I essentially have reasonably hefty allotment of compute both from Venice AI and from Compute AI, means that like most things I do, I don't really need to use my local GPU for, and can make use of cloud compute that generally is faster and frequently has support for models that I wouldn't be able to run locally.
Yeah.
So that definitely opens up a lot of experimentation, both with like text to text type inference and with Venice AI, sort of basic image generation, and with Compute AI, I mean, there basically you get your own private temporary comfy UI instance, and you can do really anything as complicated as you want.
Yeah, I'd say, to add on to that, like it's I was just using, so I haven't used VVV as much from a creator perspective, but I have been using compute a lot. Are we saying compute? Compute 3, compute AI, compute. I've been using that a fair amount, and it has really changed my workflow a bit. To Daim's point, it's nice to be able to have access to such fast power, especially when generating 3D objects. Like Trellis on compute is pretty awesome, and yeah, I think it's weird to think like, my computer might not have to be as my home computer might not have to be as powerful as I thought it did maybe 2 years ago. It is a very weird new reality, and I think it could change things for the better for creators, because you don't have to have a home computer that's like a mega power to be able to handle. You don't need a super NVIDIA graphics card on your desktop. So I think that changes things. It definitely makes things more accessible financially, because not only do you with these tokens, you might be getting a better deal or access to compute, but you don't need to have hardware on your home device that is very, very expensive. So there's kind of a double side to that, which is nice. And for artists, I hope that opens up a lot of opportunities to gain access to really strong stuff and build cool things with it.
My GPU is basically slowly returning to seeing 3,000 modded 3,000 mods modded Skyrim as its primary use.
I love that. I gotta pull up my Age of Empires 2. It's a little less intensive, but I had that up the other day.
Yeah,
It's a good thing that we only need to use our own GPUs for very particular stuff. When you like tinker around and like for everything else, more standard stuff or more powerful stuff, you can then use like privacy focused cloud solutions like Compute or Venice, like especially the new Kimi K2 model that Compute launched this week is so good. Like it is my new daily driver and replaces like it's better than GPT-5, even if the American people won't admit it, the VCs. It's just more powerful and better. But then if you want to have like completely uncensored writing for I don't know, like creative writing, you will then use like a more custom fine-tuned 70B model that you host yourself, or 24B model that you host yourself, because those are not available in the cloud. But for everything standard like Hermes 3, Llama 3, and then these super powerful things that also enable vibe coding and like using it instead of Sonnet 4 by Anthropic, like Kimi K2 or like Qwen Recoder 480B are just so good.
So I'd like to just, if I can get a clarifying question. So I wrote in the newsletter last week just about GPT-5 releasing, not too much about it because I haven't played with it, but I know that a lot of like individuals were kind of unhappy with the way that it was, like its capabilities, but a lot of larger like enterprise businesses, like including Trellis, were starting to incorporate GPT-5 as their like native model in place of Anthropic's models. And I'm curious, like, just from your guys' perspective, like, what is the layout of the LLM market right now? Like, what's the best to do? Like, when you guys are building, creating art, coding, etc., like, what are you using and where
I'm definitely making regular use of ChatGPT.
Mhm.
I will say, like, with models like Kimi K2 and even to a lesser extent like DeepSeek before it, things are getting to a point where there's less of a need, I guess, to do so for certain type of things.
Mhm.
Like I do semi regularly find myself using ChatGPT just from like a convenience or habit perspective for stuff that I know I could technically be using the the sort of compute AI or Venice AI available models for as well. Um, for coding, I've not yet tried Kimi K2 and the new Quen, but everyone seems to be pretty impressed. I've still mostly been stuck with Cursor, which I think uses just an assortment of the various sort of leading models, including ChatGPT, including Claude, based on, I guess, how complicated it thinks what you're doing is. And it's one of those things where it works well most of the time, and then every now and then you'll get to a phase in your vibe coding where the AI will manage to come up with like the dumbest, most ridiculous approaches to some very simple and straightforward problems that you've already told it how to handle like 3 messages prior.
Uh-huh.
So it's one of those things where I think you are able to get the most out of it if you have a decent understanding of the technology and know what to look out for and know how to compensate for shortcomings and failures in the technology here and there.
Mm.
ChatGPT 5, by the way, I certainly don't see as some revolutionary change, but I mean I'm happy enough with it. It seems to work well, and I've not noticed really anything that has gotten worse. Some things are slightly better. The coding definitely seemed to improve a bit from the things I've tried since it launched. But it's weird. Like I honestly find that I have a better time trying to sort of do coding with ChatGPT 5, just kind of cutting and pasting stuff in and out. And it seems to cause more issues when used through Cursor in sort of the automated way. I'm guessing just, whatever Cursor's kind of black box workflow is in the back for how it hands stuff over to the AI models and how it deals with things maybe just isn't well customized yet for ChatGPT 5. But anyways, that's sort of where I would say we are at. AI definitely has become a huge part of my development and sort of as a supporting technology to my creative work as well.
I'm sorry that I don't want to. I want to return to this, but I also have a question for you, Dame. I don't know if we discussed. Did we discuss ArtBlocks 500 last week? Maybe a little.
I think we might have touched on it at the end briefly.
I had seen I'm sorry to shift the conversation in a totally different direction, but I had seen a couple back and forths on Twitter yesterday, I think, of Snowfro basically saying that ArtBlocks was going to end like curatorial support for new projects, and basically what was going to happen is like ArtBlocks is just going to be an engine for like independent artists to use, and it wasn't going to like really have any hand in the curation or the exhibition anymore. They were going to focus on the ArtBlocks 500, and I'm curious, Daim, just like because I think you have multiple ArtBlocks 500 projects, like just what are your feelings on that?
I mean, honestly, that's the impression I got from the get-go. But then it was weirdly followed up by I'm honestly not sure whether they were official accounts or whether it was just random people, deciding to helpfully chime in on behalf of ArtBlocks. But I thought any suggestion by people in response to the initial announcement that this was like ArtBlocks ending curation, people were saying on Twitter that, like, that's definitely not the case, and, blah, 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 blah. But to me, it seemed clear from the beginning that that's what this was. And I mean, I guess I have a bit of added personal insight in that, um, early on, back when I, still had sporadic interactions here and there with Snowfro, it
Mhm.
was pretty clear to me that, like the curation was something that he like fundamentally wasn't comfortable with art blocks doing or having a hand in, and I sort of see this whole art blocks 500 thing and the step back from the curation as indication that like even the curatorial board wasn't like far enough. um and I don't know, I guess broadly, maybe it'll be a good thing. I sort of see art blocks as perhaps not being like hugely different from the other crypto art platforms like, you know, Super Rare and others. And, I'm pretty sure that focusing on art blocks 500 is going to be focusing on the, you know, 24 projects that have the highest, you know, floor prices, and bring the sort of attention and prestige to the platform that the platform craves.
Mhm.
um I'm not entirely sure how much benefit most of the other creators are going to get out of it, but then, you know I suppose it being sort of a closed collection does ultimately mean that, if they're able to maintain its perceived cultural relevance going forward, then there may continue to be sort of an ongoing FOMO from new entrants into the scene, and maybe for a long time everyone will want to own something from AB 500.
Mhm.
I think I shared around the time of the announcement with you guys on WhatsApp that I had a rush of sales of my lesser known non-curated like Art Blocks Playground series, which I didn't quite know how to contextualize at the time, and I was like, okay, maybe people are sort of waking up to this and starting to get the concept. And then one of the Art Block staff like tweets out how my Art Blocks Playground series is on the floor, and of the Art Blocks 500 series.
Yeah, it
And
was
so I
the lowest
guess,
price of all of. Not, I'm not laughing at that. I'm just. It was like the lowest floor price of any Art Blocks 500 series, right?
right, yes, so I had a bunch of sales because my secondary Art Block series was the lowest valued out of all 500 series. um
So fun.
and but I guess what I'm saying with that, if I'm getting sales because of that, then like other people will be too, I guess. um I don't necessarily know whether this is like, I don't know to what extent this is good for uh, for art. I guess maybe is what I'm trying to say. Like, very clearly, sort of the whole of the art blocks set of series are becoming this thing that is supposed to be owned purely for prestige, regardless of whether or not you actually like what it looks like or what it communicates, or any of that. Like, that part doesn't feel like it's necessarily the greatest thing for artists, but I mean, but the money is so. if it keeps pumping the prices upwards, and some of that money keeps making its way back to artists by way of royalty payments, and I have been getting some, nothing substantial, but more than in the prior, I don't know, several months. That I suppose is a positive of sorts in the long run.
Mhm. Just found it interesting. And I think that's a really good perspective. Anything else on anybody's mind? So what are we all working on at the moment? I feel like we haven't touched on that in a long time. Like what we're actually like, what are you guys in the weeds on?
Well, I have an answer to that, but I'm going to shut up for a little bit so somebody else can talk, because I can wait.
What are you working on?
Me or Dane?
Untitled.
Yeah, Untitled.
Oh, me? I'm just happy that it's been 26 minutes and no one has mentioned Kanye West. That's
Why? What happened with Kanye West?
Oh, Kanye West released a token last night and it went to $3 billion. And
Wait, actually?
yeah.
What the hell?
And I love that it wasn't in any of our group chats. It hasn't been on this call. I just think that's telling. But yeah, I don't know.
Money.easy.com.
Yeah, I think that's it. I like their anti-sniping measure, I think, was like releasing 25 different contracts.
Is it on Solana?
Yeah, it's on Solana.
Let's fucking go, baby.
But that's I just wanted to throw that out there. Just throw that to stew the pot. No, I think, well, I generally just think it's interesting. Like we're so MOCA is turning into like MOCA AI. Like we're so in the weeds on some of these AI tools. It's been fascinating to learn from like Daim and Renee. And I'm trying to, honestly, for my practice, I'm trying to absorb this and all these resources and all these kind of techniques as best I can and figure out how to apply it, because generative 3D has evolved so fast over the last 12 months. It really, actually really more in the last 6 months, it's just exploded. And for those who haven't seen, hop into like the Hyperfi Discord or check out the Hyperfi page, because they've been doing a lot of like generative vibe coding in world, and it's really fascinating to see that, because I think that's where this stuff is headed. We're going to have like rapidly generative world building experiments unfolding over the next year. And from my perspective, this has been a weird year, because it's kind of as a 3D person, an architecture person, the technology is moving so quickly. It's hard to know what's sticky and what to kind of focus on. And I've kind of come to realize, like, especially in doing unmuseums, which were AI generated, these are like little vessels in time. They like really illustrate the aesthetic, they illustrate the technique, they embody a lot of the technology, similar to the way that crypto art and generative art and like the AB 500 look over time. I think it's fascinating to see the progression of a lot of like generative 3D works. So that's a rambling way of saying that I am trying to think of ways of kind of capturing these different moments in generative 3D and how the technology is evolving. And Unmuseums, I think, is a cool example of that, because you see Trellis working and generating these kind of fictional spaces in a really interesting way that a year ago they just could not do. They would be too goopy. So yeah, I don't know. It's a fascinating time. Like, I've never had such a flood of technology to keep up with. And I always thought of myself as someone who kept up very, very well with technology as it was released, especially with 3D modeling and things like that. But wow, it's like, it's pretty incredible and scary and awesome all at the same time. That's what I'm doing these days. I'm going, wow, and oh my God, and just like terrified and excited. It's all the emotions.
Yeah, I think that's pretty crazy. In the same way, it's for us like developers that we have to like learn lots of new tools and like learn to leverage that. And particular when we at the museum building all this stuff, it's also about like connecting all the dots and understanding what's happening in ComfyUI with the workflows that you are building, and also what we did with decos, and also the agentic things with Eliza OS. So you also need to understand where are the sources for compute that you can do all of these things efficiently and in a way that you are not too dependent from the decisions that the large cloud companies or providers are doing. Yeah, it's been a pretty wild year or 2 years. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun to do all of that, and it keeps the mind fresh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, right now we are working on the integration of Eliza OS with like Coolify. Like Coolify is a system that allows you to spin up Docker containers really easy, which means you can like spin up workloads and applications in a containerized fashion. And each user that logs into the museum dashboard or into the museum application, which is currently like it's available at v2.museumofcryptoart.com. And soon there will be a login. When you log in there, you can then select like the decos that you have in your account, and then spin up that agent, or select 2 or 3 and spin up those agents. And what happens in the background is that the Eliza operating system is being spun up like in a Coolify on a Coolify server, and that means like multiple agents are being initialized in that Docker container for that particular user with the character config that Daim is currently finalizing. So this is also being part of that, like the way the agent is talking and all that stuff, plus the MOCA OS plugin that we have been building, which connects it to the library in the first step and later to other services that we provide. So a Docker container is being deployed, spinning up a set of agents by that user, and then another user logs into the website and wants to launch agents. So on the same Coolify server, another Docker container is being initiated with the decos and their personalities that user selects, and like then you have like hundreds of users and all of the stuff like spinning up the agents, like the Eliza based deco agents, like hundreds of those, and then scaling it into like across multiple servers, because at some point the server will be like fully loaded. And like we are currently building out that infrastructure that allows us to automate and abstract all this weird stuff that I'm talking about into a single button click. That's what we've been talking about a lot during our team meeting today, the office. And yeah, it's like all of that works. It's just implementing it and building it out, which takes time, and then testing. But we are making very good progress, and I'm super excited about all that stuff. And then we are also envisioning the Vibe Studio, which is something more like something less abstract and more exciting to talk about, maybe. It's something that we already discussed in our team call a few times. Can we
August 21st, first public mention of Vibe Studio. Mark that in your calendar, people.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Alpha.
Should we like talk a bit about that because that's more interesting than Coolify, Dockerized container shit.
It was too powerful. Daim had to drop off.
I'm back.
Yeah, talk about. I don't think we need to like tease this out. Like, what's the idea? What do we got going on?
Kirk, you can do it.
No, I am not qualified to do that.
Of course.
No. Renee, I will
Okay,
say,
okay.
I will say the Vibe Studio is a very cool concept for really capturing a lot of the creative energy within the MOCA community and our team, and creating tools for the public and our community to use to build and design with, as it relates to decos, to the metaverse, to beyond. And I will quickly hand it back off to Renee to describe what that is.
Our current vision of that, like how we are currently talking about, how we would describe it, is the front end will look like an app store with like icons and titles, and you hover there, or like also get a small description what it is, like an app store basically. And behind that are ComfyUI workflows, different applications around like AI workload, and ComfyUI at the center. And then the front end, like when you click an app, the website that opens, or the page, the mobile app which opens, is like a vibe coded interface that hooks into the certain ComfyUI workflow that a community member or our team ourselves has been building. And we are using Compute AI to scale the AI workload that is necessary to run that stuff. And that allows us to have like an actively changing, vibrant ecosystem of micro applications that hit the zeitgeist of whatever is currently happening in Web3 or crypto art or NFTs or PFPs. Like we want to like have something where we provide visitors of the museum that can come from all sorts of communities, reason to come to us and to remix their PFPs into like the latest trend, or to remix or create from the ground up according to certain narratives or memes, stuff that is fun, that is meaningful, that is beautiful, that is artistic. And we are going to like match artists who are able to build the ComfyUI stuff necessary to move the input into like a certain out, or morph the input to a certain output, with like vibe coding developers who designers who create the front ends, which are then user facing. And that way we can like enable the community to build a range of apps which can be made accessible to everyone who stake a certain amount of MOCA, or owns an Art Deco, or maybe a few applications are available for free, so that people get a sense of what's going on, and then they want to like try the other stuff which is behind the staking tiers, or behind the ownership of a deco. And that way we can use the Vibe Studio as like a constantly morphing, growing narrative that captures like creativity and everything that you would expect from an art community, and the most vibrant art movement that currently exists. So trying to feed that and nurture that as a part of the museum.
It's a really good description.
Well said.
Love it.
That's what you were going to say, Untitled.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. No, I think this is going to be such a powerful foundation for the work that we do, and a way to kind of capture it and organize it in a way that really draws, it's going to be drawing value back to the MOCA token ecosystem, the Deco ecosystem, and really adding longevity and also decentralization to our museum, because people can contribute to this in different ways, by creating or by coding, and we have a huge network for that. So I think this is a really awesome way to visualize and organize our efforts into a very visible public setting. And yeah, I can't wait. I think this is this is going to be really exciting.
I think we do an amazing job. I mean this completely unironically, of waiting until we've been doing these calls for 40 minutes and there's like nobody watching to like actually drop like alpha on like what we're building. It's fairly consistent that we start talking about like some shit happening like on crypto Twitter or like in the market, and then at like 35 minutes, like the views are just like ticking up one by one, and it's like, can we tell people we're actually working on? And then we launch into like this whole thing, and I just
We need the listeners to put in the time.
Yeah.
it's anti-marketing, which I think is hilarious. Like it's the opposite of hype generation. It's like hype suppressing.
You got to vibe with us for 40 minutes before you really get to the
Any information.
Yeah.
I mean, like the cool thing is, ComfyUI is going to provide an agentic system themselves, which probably going to have like MCP servers for other agents to talk to it. So, what I can already envision is that you can then chat to your Deco agent and let the Deco agent use the applications according to what you write in language to it, and then you get something back. But like that Deco agent will be able to plug into all these ComfyUI based systems at some point. And if the interface doesn't exist, it could or like an AI based tool could like build that interface.
The people outside are like little
from now.
UI. Like what is ComfyUI like most often used for? Like outside of like the art space?
I leave that to Daim, I would say. You're the expert.
ComfyUI is primarily used for image generation.
Mhm.
However, it's sort of, I guess, expanded like vastly the creative ability of the AI image generation community, because prior to ComfyUI, what you had was basically user interfaces that had like they I guess still had a decent number of settings that you could fiddle with, but for the most part, if you could do something beyond just the basic text to image generation, it's because the UI maker sort of already thought of it and built that into their sort of program's functionality. Whereas ComfyUI, I mean, it's this frightening, complex beast of a node-based system where very easily you can get like near literal spaghetti quote unquote code with nodes going from one end of the screen to the other, and even the person that put them together can barely tell what the hell is going on anymore. But it effectively started allowing people working with AI to start treating different parts of the generation process as sort of plug and playable components that you can move around, that you can use differently, and feed input from different places and feed the output from there to a bunch of different nodes, and basically come up with like very unusual ways of doing things that just wouldn't have been possible with the previous UIs, and you basically would have had to like go directly into like Python code or like something else and sort of access the various sort of AI programming toolkits directly. Whereas this, it's I guess you could look at it as a sort of high-level visual coding almost. But you can do very complex things. Like at its simplest, you can have workflows that are as basic as, just literally taking some text input and generating an image based on that. But you can also have something that has, this sprawling set of nodes that performs all sort of, logical operations, and, um, you could literally analyze, the text, and, enable or, disable certain processing in the workflow based on that. These days, you can have vision models generating text from images, sort of going in the other direction that, we normally do. I'm actually, for the deco personality work that I'm doing, I have used even previously a lot of visual model stuff, kind of having the AI tell me things about the picture of the deco character, and so that's something I can now do through Comfy UI as well. And I'm able to go from, processing 10,000 decos with a vision model, taking, I'm pretty sure, like well in excess of a week with Venice AI, and, probably several weeks if I were using my local computer, to being able to like spin up, like 3 nodes on Compute AI, have all of them do the visual model thing in parallel, and basically I'm done processing 10,000 characters in probably the course of like 5-6 hours. So, at this point, really, your imagination is the only limit. You can use it for image generation, you can use it for visual models, you can use it purely for text to text inference. You can use it for fine tuning image generation models, for creating LoRa's, really just videos, of course, some audio generation, like anything you want can probably these days be done by Comfy UI if you put in the effort to find the right set of nodes and workflows for it.
Very good description. Who makes Comfy UI? Like, no, like who designs these things? Like who designs the back end? Right. Like I remember when we were doing well, I don't want to talk about exactly what models or whatever we were using for deco generation, but like there were different models we could choose from. Like, who makes those?
Comfy UI is made by Comfy Anonymous, who, based on this very accurate and trustworthy looking picture, is a young blonde woman with blue eyes and very large fox ears with pink fur coming out of them.
It's kind of like Renee's profile picture, but lacking the ears.
And 232 other contributors.
Well, right. Yes.
Project.
Yes.
Super
But I'm sure Fox Girl does the heavy lifting.
Yeah, like when you look at her, him, whatever, like you can see that they are heavy lifting.
Renee, we all know that it's you, Renee.
That lady is a coder.
Yeah.
Well, kids, I have to bounce in just a second here. Do you guys want to stay on and keep talking, or should we just kind of kick off altogether?
I have a call in 9 minutes as well, so.
Cool. Yeah, I think we've given the people what they wanted.
Yeah. Cool.
Sweet.
Thanks everyone for being here with us. Untitled, Daim, Renee.
Thank you,
gentlemen.
We'll be back next week.
Thanks for hosting us, Max, as always.
Thank you, Max. Thank you for
Max.
being our real person.
Yeah. As we've demonstrated, we definitely can't do it without you.
Thanks.
It's true.
Well, in lieu of getting any more compliments, we'll take off and thank